What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the disaster that encompasses how hard it is to get tested for COVID-19 right now. Now, this is a multifactorial problem. It starts with authorization from the FDA, and that was approved probably 10 days ago or more to be done at local labs, private labs, LabCorp, Quest. Those are private labs that have the ability to do not the rapid test kit, but they can do a swab in your nose or in your throat, or both. And those can be sent from any facility to those labs. Turnaround time, 3-4 days probably. Those are available. Problem. Now, I kind of blame this on all of medicine. I feel like there is a huge gap. There's a big gap in leadership because there really isn't the leadership. The CDC is supposed to be running the show, which they do, but then when you take it from the CDC and it drops down to so many layers of medicine, you're talking about from hospital level, ER level, urgent care, primary care, health departments. Those are all different tiers that should be dealing with this, and they should be doing about the same thing in a roundabout way. And right now, it is so, to me, it's kind of embarrassing that there's so much confusion. There's so much pull in different directions. One side says one thing. One primary care doctor will say, okay, well, we don't do the testing. You got to go to the ER. Well, the ER doesn't want you to go to the ER. They want you to call ahead of time. They want you to know if you think you've been exposed. They want to know so you're not sitting in the ER for 3 hours exposing everybody else. So they don't want you to go to the ER. Then you go to the urgent care, and they may say, well, they may or may not test. And they may have another issue and they don't know what they're doing. Or then you go to the health department, and the health department says, well, we don't do the test here. You got to call the CDC in the state capital. So you get this, everybody's passing the buck right now, which is one of the main reasons why nobody's getting tested. Because nobody knows what the hell's going on. And I've called health departments, state health departments, the county health department is what I meant. I've called primary care doctors, urgent cares. I've talked to people I know that work in the ER, and it's just like such a dysfunctional mess. And we wonder why no one's doing testing. And then one side, even if they do testing, say they're in the ER, well, we're still doing based on travel history and fevers, and they're basing it off of a protocol that was set in place maybe 3 weeks ago. The protocol for testing changes every day. Now it's a pandemic in America, and here we are treating the protocol like it was 3 weeks ago because nobody's updating what they're doing. Nobody's doing the research. Nobody's making phone calls to the State Department. No one's talking to the CDC. It's like people are so behind. And I put some of that on the system, some of that on the providers themselves, some of that on the hospital systems. Every facility, every provider should be up to date. If you're going to sit there and tell people you don't do testing in your facility, I've heard people tell me they don't do testing in their clinic because it's not covered by health insurance. One place told me it cost $875 to get the test, and the insurances don't cover it. I haven't heard anything along those lines, but that's what this primary care office was told. So they don't do it because they were told that insurances don't cover it. That's just one reason. Other primary care doctors, other pediatrician offices, they think you need some fancy kit, some like expensive prep solution in order to send these labs off, and that's not the case. It's nothing fancy. All you need is a viral culture swab kit, which is very cheap. And do the swabs and send it to Quest or send it to LabCorp. That's all it takes. So people are getting so caught up in the minute details. If you're going to see these patients anyway, you're face to face with this person anyway. If you do a testing on them, you do a flu test, you do a strep test, you're doing an exam, and you don't find anything, you're like, well, I guess it's a different kind of virus. And then you say, well, we don't do other testing. If you're worried about contact, you've already been exposed, why not do the swab? Send it off. So what if it takes 3 to 4 days? Just do it. Send it out like you're supposed to do. Protocol per state health department today. This is what I was told by the statewide health department at the top level. Told me today, this is March 12th, I think it's the 12th, that if someone has a fever, which not all COVID-19 patients have a fever, maybe 65-70% of patients. So again, that's not a very good criteria, but it's the best they can come up with. So if you have a fever, if you have lower respiratory symptoms, lower respiratory meaning a bad cough of some sort plus some shortness of breath, and you have a negative flu test, the next phase to that is to do the COVID-19 swab and send it off. That's based on today. That doesn't include any kind of travel history. That's been eliminated. That's not there. So all this bullshit that you have to have some kind of travel history and that's your main criteria to test someone is outdated. It's not there anymore. So it drives me insane that that's what people are so stuck on. Oh, you got to have a travel history to where? Anywhere in America right now where there's positive cases? Oh no, you got to go to Italy, you got to be coming from here or there or to Washington State. Like that's the only places that matter. There's no thinking that's going on with that. And I need everybody, we got to get better as a cohesive group to do this in a rational fashion and be on the same page. There's too much confusion. We as healthcare providers need to be on the same page. If we're on different pages and we don't know what the hell's going on, how are the patients going to know what to do? My family's been sick the last 4 days, and here I am thinking, well, how do we know it's not that? So I'm looking even more into this. Okay, and nobody, it's so hard to get any answers, and I'm a provider. I don't know how a patient is possibly going to get through to anybody that's going to be able to tell them what to do. So that's a huge problem. Everybody's passing the buck. Go to the ER. Go to the ER. That's not the answer. That's the last thing we want people to do is go sit in a private or sit in a public waiting area with 100 people. I mean, the statewide health department I talked to said some clinics are doing parking lot screenings. They call ahead of time if it's their patient. They'll go out there, gown up, swab these people in their cars, send them on their way. To me, that's pretty smart. Nobody else is getting exposed. They're not coming and sitting in the lobby. They're not talking to the receptionist. They're not talking to the nurses. No one's getting exposed at that point. That's an intelligent way to do it, to minimize exposure. If that's the whole point of the game here is minimizing exposure, we need to get some protocols in place to where we can do parking lot testing. That makes sense. We need to do things that make sense, not just pass the buck off to other people because you don't know what the hell's going on. Make some phone calls. patients, you guys call your health department. It's so hard to get a hold of the health department in a lot of places. I know our health department countywide, county health departments are supposed to be doing point of care testing. Not here. Not what I've been told by them directly about 3 days ago. So it's not every county health department, which I called our COVID-19 hotline in my state, and they said all county health departments should have point of care testing and have the rapid test kits. I call after that conversation, we have nothing. We don't test here. We defer people to the CDC in the Capitol to make the phone call. They told me make the phone call to the CDC. If they think you are high risk enough to be tested, that they will send someone from the CDC to your house to test you. Turns out, after talking to the state health department, that's not true either. They had no idea that anybody was doing that, and that obviously was wrong. So if the state health department, county health department, if they can't even be on the same page, and that's like A and B, how are the urgent cares, the primary cares, the hospital ERs, every other clinic down the line, how are they supposed to know what to do? So we need better protocols. We need this information to be more readily known as to what the options are. So I don't know where that comes from. CDC, each individual state, whatever it is, but we got to get our shit together. It's going to get out of hand because we're not doing our job. And it's got me fired up because people are confused. People aren't getting tested that should be tested. They're saying there's millions of tests available, but it's not being put to fruition. It's not happening because of all the chaos and the confusion. So do your research. Know how things are changing. Every day these guidelines are changing. No one's going to update you if you don't update yourself. Companies should be updating. Hospitals should be updating their employees. It may be happening. I hope it's happening. Let's get our stuff together, guys.